think about that saying, it's lonely on the top. And I think why, when you surround yourself with a team, is that a saying. And I think that comes from the point of, even with an amazing team around you, at the end of the day, they're all looking for you to make that final decision. And you are the one making the decision, good, bad, or ugly. You always are the one wearing the target on your back.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to ABA Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by 3 Pi Squared. And I'm April. And as you can see, if you are watching, Steven is not with us today. He is letting us ladies run the show today. And so as you can see there again, if you're watching, because we are on YouTube, so come join us there if you would like. We have Jen and we have Mallory. And if you have listened or watched any of our previous podcasts, these gals are not a stranger to you. They have, I don't know, you guys have been along for the ride for a few years now. And so we're so happy that they're here joining us today. Yeah, today just feels really special. This episode, you guys are hearing this kind of mid-January. This marks the official launch of something that I've been wanting to create for a really long time. It's a space for ABA business owners to connect, to collaborate, and ultimately to not feel so alone up there at the top of running your business. So you may or may not know, depending on where you are in your journey, that the weight of running an ABA company can definitely be lonely. And we're going to talk about that more in detail here in a few minutes. It can be isolating. We love what we do. There's a lot of challenges, right? Another, I guess, reason why this is so important to me, I talk a lot about us all collaborating and connecting as ABA owners, right? I end a lot of the podcast with saying, my challenge for you is to reach out to a ABA business owner in your community, in your state, and ask them how I can help, or, hey, you want to grab coffee and chat? Because I truly, truly believe that the more that we're connected as a field, as providers, and we can see each other not as competitors, but as collaborators working towards the same mission, providing meaningful, ethical, values-driven care to the families we serve, the more that we can support each other and hold space for each other, and accept each other's differences and strengths and weaknesses, and really just pull together and work together as a team. How great is that for our own individual mental health and struggle as we're doing all the hard things? How is that? It is so great for our team because we get to support and we get to model that to them. And through that, we can offer them better support. How great is that for the ABA community itself? So that's why we're launching the ABA Business Owners Support Group. Yay! So we're going to meet once a month live, not on Facebook, not on social media, where you're going to be within our ABA Business Leaders platform. So it's, a closed group, and it's not going to be recorded. It's just going to be a space for us all to get together. We can share similar experiences and learn from each other, and also feel supported by people who understand the realities of what it's like to be an ABA business owner. So we have some other details about that, that we'll talk about as we go. I'm really excited about this. And so I reached out to Jen and Mallory, and through conversations over the years, both of them have mentioned, how can we help? What can we do? How can I help? I want to be part of this. So I reached out and I said, hey, it's time. Let's get this going. With the three of us, we can really get it going and get it going consistently and really build a really cool community. So I'm excited. And so I'm so thankful for Jen, and she's coming in with her lens as a non-clinician owner, and Mallory with her extensive background as a clinician owner. And they're both here with me today, and we're just going to be chatting a little bit about what this means for us and how we can support you, how we can support each other, and all of that, right? So I'm so excited. So let's get this conversation going. So Jen, Mallory, which one of you want to start and give a little intro for those of those out there listening who may not know you yet?
Go for it, Mallory.
I was just going to say the same exact thing.
I beat you to it.
Rock, paper, scissors.
No. I'm Mallory Stinger. I am a BCBA and yes, business owner. I've been in the field since 2009, 2010. The saying of it gets lonely on the top, not necessarily that I'm actually on the top, but it's a true saying because you feel so isolated when you're by yourself, trying to, you own this business and you have employees under you, so many things going on, and there's not always someone readily available to reach out to and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. Like, what have you done in the past? So I don't want anybody who is either starting up or has already started their own business to feel as isolated as I did. Really, there's just no reason for it. Where there's so many of us that we should be able to support one another. Just like April said too. I mean, it's not, it doesn't have to be competitive, right? There's plenty of things in the field and clients and for all of us. So that is my why. Yeah. Why don't you take it away, Jen?
So my name's Jennifer Helten. I've actually started in ABA in 1996. So I've been in ABA for way too long. So I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. Started the business over 10 years ago because of things that I was seeing in the industry, in the field at that time. I chose to not go the BCBA route. I didn't want to be a BCBA. So that was completely a choice on my end. But I did want to bring in people who had the same philosophy and wanted ABA to be done the way I knew it could be done that would be beneficial to the kids and the parents. I always tell people I don't know if I would have done this had I known then what I know now, because it is I think about that saying, it's lonely on the top. And I think why, when you surround yourself with a team, is that a saying. And I think that comes from the point of, even with an amazing team around you, at the end of the day, they're all looking for you to make that final decision. And when you are the one making the decision, good, bad, or ugly, you always are the one wearing the target on your back. So no matter what, even if you're passing it down through your team to deliver a message, at the end of the day, the business owner is the owner who's the villain and not always the hero. And that's not, I'm not in it for that, but it can feel it just kind of feels you feel kind of hurt sometimes when you've poured so much effort and it's not even appreciated. It seems like there's not just a thank you. And instead it's, well, you didn't do enough. So I think, like, for me, that's where it feels like you're alone, because you bear 100% of everything, whether you have an amazing team around you or not. And so I know when I talk to April and Mallory and I have become friends, and it would be nice to it's just nice to have owners or, colleagues or people who also understand that and you can say, you know what, but you're not the villain. You're not alone. I understand that, and only I can understand that because that's the perspective I have. And you're expected to have that, 10,000 foot view. You're expected to have all these answers. And sometimes it's just, I'm honest with my team. I'm like, look, right now I don't have an answer for that. And I'm going to have to have a time to think about it. And I think there's always that pressure of feeling like you have to have the right answer every time. And that's something that can be very isolating, because right or wrong, you're the final say. But I'm, with Mallory and April, I think that it's important to get out there and say, hey, for the next generation of business owners, what you can accomplish through this is quite amazing. And the changes that you can make in each of these kids' lives, and even this next generation of professionals, it's kind of our duty, I feel, to pass that on, because, we all have a shelf life. So might as well pass it on to the next generation and hope that they make the field even better or leave it in a better place. So
can you guys think of a time when you did connect with another business owner and it made a difference for you or your team? I know, like, the panel, right? We all look forward to this panel because for that reason. But I don't know. Did you guys have any specific stories or thoughts about that?
I have connected with business owners that are not in the ABA industry. And what I came out from that is the understanding that our problems are not specific to our field. You know, as a business owner. And that was incredibly refreshing to me because I thought it was just me or it was just my company. And so when I would hear the same frustrations and the same wins and I was like, oh, so this isn't just in this industry. This is like a business. Like this is just the business world. And this is what happens. And so the podcast was like very cathartic because I'm like, oh, people who understand, and we would bounce ideas. And I got some really great ideas just talking to everybody. But the challenge is learning that from other business owners who are not in the ABA industry. That was also a breath of fresh air to understand that this is not me. This is not the company. This is just owning a business.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that, the panel that we've had in the past, those always they just filled my cup up. Every time. It just was like, I'm not going crazy, but it's not just me. Because the thing is like, we're our own worst critics, and some of the things, right, that go through my head on a daily basis. And then, when you're a business owner and you have other people looking at you, like Jen said before, you're just like, I'm going to go crazy. I don't know. Like, is this just me? And not necessarily, like in a negative way. It's just,
right.
Okay. Yeah. And also it always gave me a sense of like, there was positive energy there because some of the people on the panel, it was always like, oh yeah, been there, done that. And guess what? I'm okay. I'm on the other side of that and I'm okay. Like, this is what I've done, or, maybe you could try this. And that always gave me a little bit of hope, right? Because sometimes I was showing up to the panels being like, holy cow, like I have no business being here. There was definitely times where I'm like, that negative, thought in your head, like you have no business opening a business. You have no business, running a business. What did you didn't go to school for business, right? Like you didn't go to school for that. And the reality is I opened it up, right? Because I saw what not to do in the field and I wanted to make it better. And there's always hiccups along the way for sure. But I do think that my cup was always filled whenever we met. Yeah. It just is so like-minded, right? Like-minded.
Right. Right. And that validation, not only that you're not alone, but you're not the only one dealing with those same problems, right? Because it's really bizarre. And I'm sure you're seeing this too, like in the business world. And I'm also like outside of the ABA space as well, like with a lot of our networking as we're growing our company. Stephen and I have reached out to other business owners who are coaching us. And, we have like kind of like support groups, like get-togethers and things like that with business owners through like many different industries, right? We were in a meeting the other day, someone selling soap, someone selling doors, someone doing like kind of an Uber type thing, someone doing a service, like a dog groomer, like all of these people. And we had a conversation about, cancellation rates, about like people calling out, not necessarily cancellation rates. They didn't call it out, but like people calling out, having a really hard time. A dog groomer had to, decrease her hours because she couldn't keep staff to support the hours that they needed to run. Right. And I was like, oh, that sounds really familiar. But especially, a lot of business owners are saying since 2020, since the whole COVID shift, that like that's been one of the biggest things, right? Is people showing up to work and just being able to hire people who stay at the job for any length of time. But yeah, so it's just that it's so cool to hear. Like, you hate that other people are going through those situations, right? You're like, oh man, that really stinks. I know it's really tough to be in that situation. I've been there, or I'm currently in there. But at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's not just me. Maybe I'm not doing everything wrong. Maybe this is just part of being a business owner. And I think if you can normalize that a little bit, not that we're excusing it, but if you can normalize it, I really feel like that like takes a little weight off of that, like burnout, you know, that weight that leads to burnout, like that. I think that's part of it. I think there's so many multiple factors that lead to, you know, this whole burnout thing we're always talking about, right? And all the stress that you handle. And it kind of like takes that stress down a notch when you realize that it's not just you. You're not the only one carrying this problem. So a lot of times in our field, there again, you know, maybe not just our field, but in our field specifically, since that's what we're talking about, there's like that, scarcity mindset that shows up sometimes. I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? I know when I have like the best, I just love it. I get the opportunity to talk to business owners across this country, right? There again, like I'll hear their stories and I'm like, oh, guess what? I just talked to someone yesterday who had this exact same story. And 2 weeks ago, this other person, exact same story. And that's really part of what's like so exciting to me to bring this together. Cause hey, you guys, let's all get together and let's talk about this, because guess what? Maybe I'm sure we can come up with some kind of solution, but it's like that scarcity of, oh, even though we have waiting lists, it's like we can't share our clients, or we have to be really competitive about like staffing, or you know, I don't know, you know, like, there's like just the scarcity. I don't even know if it's like something talked about a lot, but it's just underlining like scarcity mindset. And I, you know, just through all of my thinking about, you know, having this podcast or having this direct conversation today, I just wondered how much some of that could potentially be part of the problem of why we don't tend to reach out to each other. I don't know.
I feel like I've always been like, you know, I had another colleague say like, there's enough clients to go around. And that was when I was taking a client from them that they no longer could serve because they were going from private insurance to Medicaid, and they didn't take Medicaid. And I did 90% was Medicaid. And so that was early on in my business owning. And I really carried that. I really did carry that attitude because I was like, yeah, there's enough clients to go around. There's never a shortage of clients. Right. And I mean, I got to know that even more. So, right, as I grew, because, the calls every day, right. The calls and having to put people on the wait list. But then later on, I would say probably like 5 years later, I don't know if it was like post-COVID, and maybe you guys had some of the same experience, but it was the same kind of situation, and yet they wanted a cut. And I was sobbing. I'm not going to lie. I was sobbing because I was having a really hard time articulating, like, I don't understand why you're thinking that you need a cut of this client, because you can't serve this client. You can't serve this client. I can serve this client, and I'm willing to serve this client. Isn't that what this whole thing is about? Right? Isn't this the whole thing? This is the whole reason, right? And so, that was really difficult for me to like process because, well, and it definitely came as a shock because I guess I just haven't really worked with anybody who has done that before or even mentioned it or said, you know, like, oh, well, we want to, and I'm like, wait a minute here, hold on. Like this child's going to go without services or is going to be put on a wait list if I don't take them. And I have the capacity to take them on right now. So that was difficult. I don't know, Jen, if you've had any experience. And I think it also is a little bit different because I have like a lot of different connections with some of the clinics in the area. And so there are definitely times where I reach out and like, hey, I don't have room for this client. Can you guys take them on? It's actually a pretty like serious case. They need to get services right away. If there's any way, right, that you can take them on pretty quickly. That happened a lot, but I do feel like post-COVID, it shifted. That mentality shifted a little bit for me.
I have never heard that, Mallory. That's, wow. Honestly, that has never, I think what's interesting too is listening to business owners in different parts of the country. I definitely think that could be, there's regional things, the way things are done. The area that I'm in Texas is so saturated in ABA. Not only your big boxes, but your smaller clinics as well. And I would say that we've gotten better about the referral. Do I say that we're going to go meet and have coffee? Probably not. But if we can't serve people, or serve kids, we definitely have who we would refer to and, and who to contact. And I know that's happened vice versa for us as well. So I'm seeing the referrals. I think I'm seeing it turn a more positive way where we're at this time, where it used to be nobody talked, right? Now I definitely see we're getting referrals from different clinics. I know we're referring to different clinics if we can't serve the kids too. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but do I think that if I walked down the street and saw a business owner, would I know that person? No, because I don't always, for me, it's not always about, I don't want to, it's time, it's where do I allocate my time? And as much as I would love to say, I'd love to go have a cup of coffee or lunch and really do that networking. The reality of it is for me is I'm horrible at that because I'm I still want to be part of the day, not the day-to-day weeds, but just connecting with my team and making sure those connections stay strong. I definitely have seen a trend change, at least here in this area, which I hadn't really thought about it till you brought that up, April. But never once has anybody ever asked for a cut, which that would be very disheartening. I mean, that's almost kind of borders on ethics.
Ethics. No. And I think that's why it was so hard. And it shocked me. And of course, I was somewhat embarrassed because I did start crying, but I thought, wait a minute, like I'm struggling, having a hard time. Like I'm struggling. I can't articulate to you why, like, this is making me feel this way. And it was 100% because I was like, this is something that I would never have even thought of to ask another clinician or business owner of, hey, I have this client, right? Because the reality is we all know, right? You don't go into this field, I mean, to make a ton of money. I know some people might even think that, right? When you go in and then you quickly realize like, nope, that's not what it is, right? And I was a teacher before. So, I mean, we know that teachers don't get paid very well either. And so, it was a big shock to me. And again, it was a good lesson for me, right? And it helped me like shape kind of just, okay, if this ever happens again, this is what I'm going to say, right? So that I don't like, it's like a, stab to my heart. So shifting a little bit because Jenny, you said something, you're like, oh, I'd love to have a cup of coffee, but I don't know. I don't know if you girls feel this. And I know that guilt is a choice, but there were times that I was like, I'm going to go and have a cup of coffee with a friend, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And the amount of guilt that I would feel when my employees were back at in the homes working and I was out having coffee, like I had a really hard time with that. So yes, it was of course the allocating the time, right? Like where am I going to put my time? But the reality is I really needed that, right? To fill my cup. I did really need that. But the guilt, I don't know if other listeners have felt the same thing. Like I shouldn't be here. Everybody else is, working their butt off and I'm out here just sipping on my coffee. So that's also been a little bit difficult. I think for me in reaching out, it's like, I don't have time. I don't have time for that. Right.
Yeah, for sure. That makes perfect sense. And I think that was something that for me has come with experience, has come with age, has come with hitting points where I'm like, I can't not do this but we're all different too. I mean, we all have different personalities. We all have different strengths. We all have different weaknesses. We all have different preferences. Some people don't like going out to a coffee shop for a cup of coffee on a good day. Why in the heck would they be, reaching out of their comfort zone to invite someone else to come to the coffee shop? So I think, when I say like, oh, invite another, business owner out for coffee or whatever, it's just kind of almost like a euphemism or example, right? How let's connect, because I get that, right? Like that's there's so many barriers to that. And so I think too, that guilt, because, you know, when I was in the thick of it with the staff, I felt like if I broke a rule or I didn't do something to the full extent, then how am I going to expect my staff to do that? Like, that would be like so like two-faced of me, or so just
hypocritical,
such a jerk. Yeah. Like, how can I do that? And that was one of the things that Stephen and I worked through for a really long time, because Stephen did not have that same belief. He was like, you are putting that on yourself, my dear. Like, he's like, that is, yes, you want to be an example, but you also are the business owner, and you do carry the load of this business, and you are there. So very much for like a parent who gets to stay up to midnight, whether it's good for them or not, but tell their child they have to go to bed at 8, right? It's, you know, kind of similar, right? We have different needs as a business owner, but that doesn't make that like, but we're still human, and we still have all of these feelings, right? And they get in our way, right? And so these are exact conversations that I'm so excited that we can have on these support groups, because I'm sure there are so many people listening right now. They're like, yes, Mallory, yes. Like, I can't, like, I feel too guilty, or, you know, if I'm expecting other people to, this is something I hear a lot with like substituting, right? Like, if you have a call out, especially in a clinic-based setting, that the owner feels like they have to jump in and take the session.
Yeah, I never felt that way.
Yeah. And you know, I'm like, okay, well, what is it that you're not getting done? Like, what's the cost of that? Right.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, we expect all of our BCBs, all of our clinicians to be willing to jump in and take a session if they're available, and a session needs, you know, whatever. And it's like those conversations, because there's like this shift, especially for those who are BCBA, like clinical business owners, right? Because you do wear that hat. You can be the supervisor for a case. You can bill for that time. You can, right? And that's what you used to do before you found yourself in this owner position. And so I find too, a lot of times that transitioning from being a BCBA for another company, or even a BCBA when it's just you providing the services, and then you start to build a team, and like, how do you shift yourself from into a completely different position with different expectations and different skill sets and all of that?
Well, I think that, I mean, I see that with every position, though, in my company. Like, any administrator wants to jump in and do something else to be helpful. And I've more and more finding myself saying, but at the detriment to what? At what detriment to your position is your desire to help, which I appreciate. And it's not that I'm trying to squash a team mindset and a jumping in, but I think, like you said earlier, like, the older you get, the longer you do this, you realize that if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. Mm-hmm. And there's just times you have to say, unfortunately, today, this is what happened, and it's not ideal, but I can't afford for 5 more things to fall through the cracks because of this, you know? So I've been having that conversation a lot with a lot of my team, like, but at the detriment to what? You know, you basically band-aided something, but now we've got 5 more issues that we didn't have to have. And now we've got to put fires out here, when if we would have just talked as a team and said, hey, this is what's happening. Sorry. You know, if anybody can step in, this is amazing. Otherwise, this is our plan for this day or this session or whatever. I think that it's teamwork is very, very important. I mean, that's something the foundation of it, but it also has to have that question of, at the detriment of what, though? Is there going to be something that we can't recover from, or is this something that we're all willing to take a hit on somewhere, whether it's financial, whether it's administrative, whether it's clinical, whether it's, you know, anything like that. But, I think early on, we want to, but that's the thing. Early on, as a business owner and as a clinical business owner, you want to fix everything. And the reality of that is at the end of the day, you are so burned out, and you're going home and you're facing another 3 or 4 hours of work that you didn't get to even do. There's days I don't even get to sit in front of my computer still, And at the end of the day, I'm sitting up in front of next to my daughter on the couch while she's watching TV, and I'm on my computer. So at least I feel like I'm doing something with my child and family. And I'm scheduling all these like 50 emails to go out the next day, because that's where I finally had time to sit down. And that, and I've learned as I've gotten further into this that I'm prioritizing more, but there's just sometimes you come home and you're working for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours more just because you absolutely have to make sure this communication gets out. So it's, yeah, I mean, and again, I think that goes back into if I don't do it and I'm not the model, how can I expect my staff or my team to come back and do what I've asked them to do, or what we've all come together as a team and decided this is what's the best for everybody to be successful.
Such a heavy load, like such a heavy load to like, I mean, Steve, like you said, April, Stephen's like, you're putting that on you, on yourself, my dear. Like, I mean, it is such a heavy load. I also like the idea that you said, you're putting a Band-Aid on it, right? Because as a clinician, right, when we had a cancellation, that was my expectation, is that I would jump in. And then I felt like if I did that, then I could have that expectation with my techs. And I think, I mean, after several years, it was kind of like one of those things that, that really is a difficult expectation to have of everyone, because we're all humans and we can't always all like, I have, right. We all have our own personalities. We all have our own strengths. I can go back and forth and be flexible. Some people can't. Yeah. And I had to learn that's okay. Some people just don't have that in them, and that's okay. And would I rather have them for the majority of the time with the consistency, right? Or like them be like, I can't work here because you're just expecting too much flexibility on me. Like that's just too much. I can't do that. Yeah. And so, the Band-Aid, right? I would jump in and the Band-Aid would be there, but guess what? The 4 hours that I was in session, that was the time that I was supposed to be doing an authorization. Right. So then later that night I was doing it just like you said, right? Then I was doing it that night, at midnight, because of course I wanted to spend time with the family too. Right. So then you're like burning yourself out. So,
and you almost start getting resentful, and you don't want to get resentful, right? Like you don't want to get resentful of anybody. Sure. Because you're like, well, if I can do it, why can't they do it? And that's not fair. That's absolutely not fair You're right. to put on them, because they didn't sign up for that part,
Sure. You're right.
And so like, I think that's where I struggle with, is when people are like, man, that's really stressful, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of what I've signed up for, and so
I think that expectation could be a little bit different if you're in a clinic. If you're in a clinic all the time, right? And you're there and your client canceled, that could be a little bit different. When you're working at home, right? I mean, it could, it's a little bit more of a commitment too, to be like, okay, I'll sub. Okay. Well, that client is now an hour away from, right, the other client, cause you're driving in between. But, I really do like that Band-Aid thing. Cause I mean, it was
totally
a Band-Aid on it. And you're like, well,
I was having a conversation the other day with another business owner who feels like we're talking about delegating. And so this individual is feeling like they definitely needed to learn how to delegate more. But in their mind, they wanted to delegate for these big ideas they had, or these big pieces that just weren't getting done. And okay, well, maybe I can delegate for some people to get these things done. So we worked together, and I had them do a couple of week time log, just to, check like where they're spending their time during the
time killers. Yep.
And, let me tell you, this individual was spending so many hours of their week, letting their staff go to the bathroom, or running like the keys to the store,
bringing stimuli
or bringing a Band-Aid to the kid who cut their finger, or like just putting out little fires all day long. But guess what? Number one, there wasn't the until once once awareness was brought to it, it was like, whoa, oh my gosh, like my eyes have opened. And though it's like, how rewarding is that? Like, look at our science, like all of these like intermittent, just sprinkled things throughout the day that you could solve right away.
Mm-hmm.
You could put that Band-Aid on. You literally, you could, and then it's done. And then you get that like little boost of, yeah, I got things done. But then you sit down and you're like, why can't I'm at work for X amount of time. Why can't I get the things done I need to get done? So, sometimes it's even about asking ourselves, like being like real with ourselves and asking, there's like taking little time audits on ourselves, or, focusing on one thing a week and be like, hey, I'm just going to like step in and be like a little bit more aware about this, like one thing, like what's going on here. Yeah. So that was just really funny. But there again, I was like, oh, see, I bet you there's like so many of you listening right now, they can like raise your hand and be like, yep, that's me. Or maybe thinking, oh, you know what? Yeah, I think I do that too. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging this business owner. Like, it's just bringing that awareness and understanding. And then even, hey, like, it's just,
but it
just
so
feels
funny.
so good to know that you're not the only one.
It's just so funny though, to hear that, because, when I started doing some online supervision for a company, and they were all in person in a clinic, but it was just funny to me because I had never experienced it. But the bathroom breaks and the bringing stimuli, like when I worked in a clinic as the technician, it was like, oh, we forgot this. Okay, come on, Joe, we're going to go and find it, or we're going to go, that just wasn't an option. It just wasn't. And we've talked about it before on other podcasts too. Like, our supervisors were not at, we didn't have access to them 24/7 like we do now when we're like texting, right? We had to wait until we saw them the next session to talk to them, or, we could call them maybe if they had a moment. But then if every single tech was calling the supervisor every single day, right? Like, that was not going to work either. So that was interesting to me. And then at one point I was like, wait a minute, can't you just go and get, I think it's just in the next room. And I'm like on the computer, right? I was like, can't you just go and get that? I think it's in the next room. And I don't know why that was that way. I don't know. I just hadn't experienced it. And I thought, well, that's kind of silly. Like, you could just go and find it yourself.
Right. So I got I like jotted it on my podcast idea list, because I was like, so I want to do something with this whole concept of, okay, all right, I'm going to challenge everybody to put your walkie-talkie on silent for like 1 hour every day. I don't know what it is with this whole walkie-talkie culture.
Oh, we've never had walkie-talkie.
But yeah, like people being like just glued to their walkies or their phones or however, right? But like, you're just, and even just the amount of like notifications that are constantly like you have to be in the know of everything. And so it's like in the sense of like, okay, how can we build some systems and how can we truly delegate where you're not getting stuck in all of this? But at the same time, looking at like how motivating it really is, right? Because you're not having to do those crappy stuff that you really don't want to do right now. And you're getting that like instant gratification of, oh, I fixed something, I finished something, I helped someone, I did the thing. But then also like the resentment on the other end, like over time, the resentment starts to build. Like, can't you just go get that toy yourself? No.
Well, can't you be prepared?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you not even prepared? You know what you're supposed to do. Why are you not even prepared for this?
Right. And that was, those other conversations that I have with business owners, as they're delegating, even beyond I don't know if it's just delegating, but expecting someone to do their job. Right. And so it's that the amount of, there again, I'm not saying this out of judgment at all. It's just the things that happen, right? That we just don't even really think about. Yeah. Like learned helplessness, right? Of like, well, of course, if you come in and swoop in and help them do this thing every time they ask for it, or you're within like proximity, right? Like environmental modifications. Okay, well, maybe during this time you need to step out of this area so that you're not there for them to ask for that help. Of course, making sure they know the skills and they've been trained adequately. But giving them the space to be able to do it, even if they make mistakes, right? Because I know a lot of times as business owners, we have that, wow, I'll just do it myself because I want it done right, or I want it done right away. And then we like put ourselves into a corner by doing that sometimes.
I think one thing that I've done with pretty much every one of my BCBAs when they moved, like if we hired them from externally, or if they, went from an RBT to a BCBA, and even my administration team, within about a month, they're coming to me and telling me, well, I don't have enough time to get stuff done. And that's always where I'm like, oh, you know what? We're going to do a time killer. You're going to do a full week of minute by minute what you did for the day. And what we find for my BCBAs more is all these conversations, these little conversations, these 5-minute, 10-minute, conversations. Number one. For my administration team, it's, oh, well, I had to take this person to the bathroom. This person needed a snack. This person needed this. And it's like, okay, so what are we going to do to fix this? Because I had a person ask me the other day, so tell me what your typical day is. What do you get done in a day? I said, I get nothing done and I get everything done all in one day. Because I go home at the end of the day feeling like, what the heck did I do? But I was working the whole day, And so when we look at that, when we go back through that data, it's like, okay, how can you change this? That staff need restroom breaks, right? So maybe you're proactive and you get up around, people get there about 8:00, 9:00, 9:30 is a good time to go, hey, we probably all need a restroom break. You're walking around and you're going, hey, would you like a restroom break? Would you like a restroom break? And that has made a big difference. Like seeing that data and knowing where your time is being, where you're going. And you're like, why do I feel like I did nothing today, but all I did was run around? Delegating, I think you'll get to a point as an owner when stuff like that, you're like, please take it. I am so through at having Henry hold on to Henry's kid while he takes 10 minutes to go to the bathroom. I'm so through with that. Yeah, like I don't miss those at all. The thing for me, which is funny about this delegation, which is this just hit me like a ton of bricks. All of my office administrators have been decorating for Christmas, and I used to do that. And I know this seems silly, but that was something that I really love doing, right? Like that's something that I'm like, I look forward to this. Yeah. And so when I come in and I see the decorations and they're beautiful, ththey do a fabulous job. But in my mind, I'm like, but I wouldn't have done that. I would have done that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, but they're gorgeous and it's wonderful. And it's like, I think the thing that people don't realize with delegating, there's some things you're going to celebrate that you can delegate off, and some things you almost mourn that you're like, man, but I really kind of liked doing that. So, but I can understand, I see the benefit of delegating it out because it is a time killer for bigger things. And that's okay to understand that you can be sad for some of the things that you delegate out that you actually thoroughly enjoyed. But the beauty of that is you're the owner and you can take that part back if you want it. You can say, I really appreciate this, but this is something that I truly love to do. And this makes me like, you get to use your creative juices. Like I love Canva. So when they all have taken over all these great flyers, I'm like, that was the one time I got to be creative, so, but now I'm like, what? I'm going to take this one over because this is special to me, so. Yes. Understanding delegating is a liberating thing, but it's also a thing that you can be kind of sad about,
Yeah, there still can be FOMO there, right? And even like in making decisions, right? I was actually just talking about this with we've had several situations with our child where we've had this conversation of like, there's choice A and there's choice B. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to make that choice of which one you want to be, but there's no, in a lot of these like easy decisions, right? There's no wrong decision. It's right. But no matter which one you choose, you are going to have to mourn the one that you didn't choose, right? And that's where that like you're feeling both things at the same time thing comes in, right? Because you have FOMO, but you know what? Maybe this year you don't have it within your capacity to decorate for Christmas, and you have A, B, and C over here that just absolutely have to get done to be able to pay your staff. Right. And so this sucks, but I got to do it because this is part of being a business owner. And then maybe next year you have the capacity and you tell your staff that you guys did a beautiful job last year, but I'd like to take this back on this year, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I think we really get, you were talking about flexibility earlier, with staff and what they're able to do. But sometimes like as business owners, like being able to look at our own flexibility and see like what beliefs are we, like what corners are we pushing ourselves into and what beliefs do we have? I really, really, truly believe that being a business owner is a growing experience as a person. Like you grow as a person. Very similarly, I don't know those of you who are listening who are parents, if you've ever been if you're a parent or currently a parent or you've already raised those kids, but there is like this personal development growing thing. And I know it doesn't occur in all people, but it's quite, a situation that happens, right? As you're raising these humans that you start to get more, reflective of your own behaviors and things like that. But I think in a business, you get challenged and you get pushed and, and you can make that choice of, okay, I'm gonna grow with this. This is really hard, but you're going to choose that hard. You're going to grow with it. Or you can just, just really get trapped inside of it. Not to sound so dramatic, and I think that's where, like, as business owners, we can really support each other, right? Because that's where, maybe back when I didn't have support and I was a business owner and I felt like absolute jerk when I had to tell people that they couldn't ask off. Like if someone asked off time, I was saying yes. And then Stephen came to me with our cancellation rate and our numbers and he was like, honey, we can't sustain this. Like we have to we already had policies in place, but we have to back up these policies. Like we have to do like a first come, first serve. We have to decide how we, if we need to change these policies, we can, but you can't tell everybody yes every time they ask off. Mm-hmm. And I felt like a jerk because I'm like, here I am saying like, try, especially the last few years of the business when we were like getting through the whole COVID times, and I was really trying to support my staff to take care of themselves. So if then they came to me asking for like a mental health day, but like I needed them at work, I felt like a jerk, right? But I do feel like that. I think of that example of if I had other business owners to like just bounce this idea off of and chat with them, what do you guys do about this? Right. And find that probably other people also felt the same, that it's a jerk, that you feel like a jerk. And then other people say, yeah, I kind of felt like a jerk, but then I learned and this is what came from it. And this is how I feel now about it. In fact, now I would feel like a jerk if I did say yes to everybody because of the strain that it puts on the rest of the company, like that kind of perspective. I think, I'll say one more thing. I know I'm relating a lot to parenting, but just in my mind, this is where it falls. When I was, expecting Willis, I had a friend of mine say, okay, she was given this advice by someone. And so she was passing the advice down to me. And she said, it's so important to have your friend group, like your mom group. And she was like, but you need to vary it. You need to have a mom group who's in the same season as you are with the same age kid as you are. You need a mom who their kids have already flown the nest and they're empty nesters, right? You need a mom who's like a decade ahead of you in raising their kid. And then you need to invite a new mom into the group, once you've got a couple of years of experience, because it's so important to be able to see all of those different stages and be able to support others, but have people to support you. And that was really what helped, what kind of fueled the Back to Basics series that we're doing right now, is like, okay, where are you in your journey and how we can meet you where you're at, like the starters and the growers and the closers within companies. And so that's, I see us in this community, in this support group, whatever you want to call it. I see, that's part of my vision there, right? Is so that we can have people there with different levels of experience to be able to really support each other through that.
It's funny. I was at a conference about probably 10, 12 years ago, and I was talking to the presenter. He was a doctor, and he's been in, I can't remember who it was anymore, but I was working with a client at the time, and I was really struggling with this client because we were not making any progress with the client. behaviorally, and the client had been in ABA since she was 2, and it was just a really hard case. And I was really having a hard time trying to figure out what was going to be the aha moment for the parents. And so I was talking to him about it, and he flat out just looked at me, and I thought it was very callous at first when he said this, but then there was a lot of wisdom in it. And basically he was like, until they're ready for a change, there's nothing you can do. And I said, yeah, but this has been going on. He said, then they do not have any desire to change, and you need to move on. And I was so taken aback with that, because I thought, wow, that seems just so heartless. And I think it's a great way to think about like what you're saying. You know, in the beginning, when I was talking to business owners when I first started, and they were further in their journey, like they were past the feeling like a jerk for not letting somebody off when they asked for time off. And the way they would say it's not that they would say it in a callous way, but it just sounded callous. Like it just sounded like, well, that's really heartless. Why are you not? And I think that's also a struggle that's going to happen when you're a new owner. You're going to think that but people who've been doing this for a little bit longer, you know, they're going to come back and they're going to say some stuff that you're going to think is going to be, well, I'm not going to do that. That sounds really harsh. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that we all started off in that, but I don't want to, you know, I really want them to have that work-life balance. But is that fair to the rest of the people when you have, because the reality of it is, it's always a handful of people. It's not your whole company. It's not your whole staff. It's not your whole team. But understanding that, yeah, sometimes it does sound callous, but sometimes that's just the reality. And you can take your spin and put it on there so that you don't feel as like a jerk, I guess. I don't know what the word is. Mm-hmm. The thing that we've really started on that specifically, April, with people, you know, asking for time off. It's a handful. It's always the handful. And what I've had to start really looking at is, how does that look to the rest of the team when they're the ones carrying that burden? And that really does change your perspective on how you're going to approach the person. And my thing has always been, as long as you're approaching them professionally and with dignity, and it's not we're not sitting there berating or anything, their reaction to it is not my problem. And I've really had to learn that. I've really had to be okay with, I did everything I could to bring this in a compassionate, professional, and dignified tone and on delivery. The way you react to a boundary is that's no longer a burden I need to bear. Mm-hmm. Your feelings in this that's just not my responsibility if I did this the right way. Yeah. But that's hard to hear as a new owner, because you want to take on all those feelings. You think it's your job to bear that on your shoulders, and it's not. It's not.
Yes. I mean, that is so, that's one of those many variables that play into overwhelm, right? Mm-hmm. It's like not like reacting versus responding and it's a skill. Mm-hmm. Like we are not born with this, or maybe we are and we just like lose it over time. I don't know. It's hard. So yeah, Mallory.
I just was going to say, I feel like I took kind of the I don't know, easy way out with like the time off thing, because I did have blockout days. Like every year I would set like blockout days for, this is when our company is closed. And oftentimes it was a 4-day weekend for that kind of reason. And so the thing was, is I still had to tell some employees no, but it was never like, you can't take that time off, but can you shift your plans? Can you do it during, mm-hmm. These blockout days that I already have scheduled? Or if you're going to do that, if you can, absolutely can't. Cause like if it's a wedding or something, right?
Yeah.
But like, I just felt like, it was something that I tell my parents all the time when I'm doing family guidance, is like, well, we don't just say no, cause no is an important word to learn, but it's when, okay, no, but when can they have that again?
Yes.
Right. And so it's the same thing. Like, I'm telling you no, but you can do it on X, Y, and Z dates instead. Mm-hmm. Right. And then if you can't do it those days, absolutely cannot, then can you swap them? Can you work the days that I have blocked out? Right. So it just didn't ever feel as, as difficult for me to say no. Right. I don't know if that was the right answer, right? And it certainly is not going to fit everybody's, model or company, but definitely something to consider. But being the bad guy is never fun. It's just not fun. For sure.
Well, and this is the exact kind of conversation. Like, I know we're running at the end of our time here, and there was a couple more questions that I want to address. But, my next question is like, when you imagine our monthly meetings, what do you hope it feels like? And then also along with that, what kinds of conversation do you think owners are craving right now? And like, I already had these like questions queued up in my mind, like a few minutes ago, and we're in this conversation right now. And I'm like, yes, exactly. This right here, right? Like, here's what I'm really struggling with. And then other person, yeah, me too. And another person, oh yeah, I used to struggle with that. Here's what I do now. And then like Mallory has one, recommendation or suggestion that works for her. And Jen has another that works for her. Like, it's not that one's right or one's wrong, right? It's what works best for your company. And so I think also being able to have those ideas, because some may work for you and some may not, and that's okay. So, but yeah, to circle around. So what do you guys hope that these meetings will feel like? And also, what kind of conversations are you thinking owners are craving right now?
I mean, I want this group to feel like a breath of fresh air, right? Like that's like immediately what kind of came to my mind. It always just, sometimes it feels stuffy, right? And you're like, oh, I just need to breathe a little bit. As far as like what questions, I think it's always retention. Honestly, I think that is probably one of the things that I see the most, like on Facebook, is like, how are you guys keeping your staff, or how are you guys, rewarding them? How do you guys motivate them? Right. It's always like, but it always is back to, right. Retention. How do we keep them going? So, possibly things around that. What do you think, Jen?
I would like for the group to feel like you've walked out not just receiving support, but that there's been different perspectives of what's worked for different people in different scenarios, but then also a sense of accountability that you're going to take what you're learning and apply it, and not just sitting and stewing, and that a month later, the same problem is happening because nothing's been done. We talk a lot about accountability on our team, but there needs to be accountability on us as well, that we're not sitting in a problem, that we're actually, and it can take a couple days, it can take a couple weeks to figure it out. But the fact is that you are actively working as an owner to not just grow yourself professionally and in your leadership skills, but that you're not sitting in a problem and 6 months later, you're still in the same problem. That you haven't had this amazing resource with all of these supportive business owners who are offering all these, and you're just scared to pull the trigger, on one of them. At least do something, So I think that that would be my goal, is that people feel supported. There's lots of different viewpoints and advice, and, but that also there's a level of accountability that, okay, I've now invested in this, and I'm going to turn around and invest that into my team and make sure that we're moving forward. In terms of business owners, what they're, talking about, I've got to be honest, I don't get on Facebook. But I do know that, just reading articles and staying on top of ABA news and stuff, I think another big scare for people right now is the equity-backed organizations that are coming out, and how do you kind of compete with that? And some of that could be retention with teams, with your team members, or also just, how do you navigate your having a cash flow when you have, I read an article about, there is a pattern, and there is. I mean, there's a pattern. I can tell you exactly when you're going to feast and exactly when you need to have saved up your reserves, because you're kind of at the mercy of when you're going to get paid sometimes. So you have to be careful about that. So I think that would be a great topic, finding creative ways to hold on to your cash, planning for that time. But yeah, retention's always a big one. And I know discipline, I think that making it a motivation, I can't motivate everybody because the motivations are always going to change. But I think that there's a way to put it into your company culture that helps people stay motivated long-term when it's something bigger than them. Like, this is the trajectory. This is what we want to do. We want you as part of this end goal. And what an amazing opportunity to be part of something so much bigger than yourself. But how do you keep those smaller reinforcement, smaller motivation, smaller checkpoints in there so that it's not just this big ambiguous picture?
I think the other thing is burnout, right?
Yeah.
How to prevent burnout. I
think CEO burnout, Mallory, business burnout.
Yeah. No, it is, right? It's a whole different thing, right? Because we see clinicians, being burnt out by billable hours, all of those things. And you see, but the ownership, right, is slightly different burnout because you're, and for you not being a BCBA, things, might be a little bit different. For me as, the owner and the clinician, it's this constant, okay, what is burning me out? Is it the clinical side or is it the, business owner side? More times than not, it's the business side that's burning me out, right? Mm-hmm. It's not the why I got into the field, which is the clinical work and the stuff with my clients, right? So, but I think in general, right, everybody's feeling it. Everybody is feeling it, the burnout. And how can we prevent it? But that's partly why we're doing this group, right? Is to support everybody to feel like you don't have to feel, alone. You don't have to have that burnout completely by yourself, right? And let us be cheerleaders for you. If you are in that, in that moment already, if you're in that season, what can we do to help? Right?
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with everything that both of you guys said. And, that's one of the big driving factors of this group is to help support, because of the business owner burnout that's so real. In the past, I did some pop-up groups, especially when I could tell, in the climate, I was talking to multiple business owners within the week. Everyone, it was just it must maybe the moon cycle or something, right? But every the full
Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, it was and it's okay, I'm gonna do a pop-up on Thursday. Anybody can make it. Let's go hold space for each other. And that's what I see this as. I see it as it's something that we are offering for free. There's no cost to join this group. I know some of you guys might be waiting to get to the end of this podcast and be fine, how much is this going to cost? Right? But it's no charge. It's just holding space and hopefully what we are going to try our absolute best to create a safe space to be able to share and support each other. But we also are going to be very intentional about the space. And the hope here is that, we will keep boundaries also. I think that's important to be transparent and share, right? That it does not become a toxic place, right? This is something that, we are going to, venting. Yeah, we'll hold space for that. But then there's that accountability piece too, that Jen said, right? And sometimes we just have a really bad day. And that's okay too. But we will hold, we will provide a hopefully safe space to hold space, all these space words, for your feelings, but for your situation, and support each other and just hold each other up and cheer each other on. But the feeling that I'm hoping to come from this is Mallory said, is that breath of fresh air, because I want you to feel like you're going to come in this space and you're going to feel held and uplifted. Not that we all have to be happy and bubbly and come out of this feeling excited. But I do think that sometimes we trap ourselves into a place where we sit in our overwhelm. And so out of curiosity, for ourselves and each other and that support, maybe we can help, gently help each other to not get stuck in that place where we're just sitting there grumbling about how hard life is. I saw something the other day and I can't remember what it was called, but it was a Sunday night. It's basically saying that when your anxiety increases on Sunday night because your work week is about to start, or a Monday morning, right? Where you physically are feeling ill within your body, as you're ending your weekend. It's if assuming you have a traditional work week, Monday through Friday, right? That you, the Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday morning, like you feel it in your body dreading to go to work the next week. Like, my hope is that we can decrease that a little bit if you're there, right? Because
please tell me how we decrease that.
Oh, there's so many ways. But it's real. It goes along with that whole CEO and the choices that we make too, right? This is the choice that we make. And we do have this, this is our responsibility to keep this company running. And so with that, there are some hard weeks for sure. So I'm hoping we can hold space for each other and help each other out through that. So kind of a final question. That might be like a loaded question though. Part of my vision here, part of my values, like part of the values with 3 Pi Squared and ABA Business Leader is to provide quality, right? To help support business owners so that we can overall improve the quality of services that we can provide to those individuals that we provide services to, right? So the question I have for you is, what needs, in your opinion, like what needs to exist in our field that just doesn't yet? And how can this space that we're providing here help fill that gap?
Oh my.
I know, it's loaded. It's big. That's okay if you don't have an answer yet. I want all of you guys listening to think about this as well and think about how you would answer this.
Gosh, Jennifer, you have any ideas? I don't even know if I have any, like, because I'm thinking like, okay, from like a standpoint of like, what could be helpful, like just logistically, or like, I'm like, I want to be able to call someone and be like, immediate, like,
right,
this is going on, blah, 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 and somebody to immediately say, okay, take a deep breath. It'll be okay. Like, let's talk through the steps, right? That would be, because we do have like the ethics hotline, right? But that's not really, why it's there. And so that I was thinking like, well, maybe that, but I don't know.
Well, I'll answer for me. It's that collaboration piece, right?
Sure.
And I think sometimes maybe we get really rigid in our definitions of things, but for me, like the collaboration is just really being able to like, okay, so yeah, I'm not calling the business owner down the street and asking them out for coffee. That's not what I do for anybody. Okay. Well, then show up here and hold space and listen to your fellow business owners and offer suggestions, offer advice, or just listen and be here and share your experience. I feel like the more that we have these conversations and the more that we just chat with each other, like, yeah, it doesn't have to be as stressful as finding time in the calendar for a coffee, but and with the idea in mind, here's the other piece of it though, with the idea in mind of how can I help? Now I get that you're like, most of you guys listening are probably like, oh my God, I have freaking enough on my plate. I don't want to be helping other people doing their stuff.
But if you help, you're learning.
Yes, exactly. It's more like the spirit of help. It doesn't necessarily have to be concrete. Let me take things off your to-do list. That's not what we're saying. But maybe you have an issue going on and oh crap, look at that. We both have the same issue going on. Let's brainstorm. Right?
I think
that's kind of that's what I'm going for here,
I think that is a really great way to frame part of what the podcast did. It fills your cup, but you also are, in trying to help, you're also learning and you're being taught whether you recognize it or not. And then you're teaching. So we all know the best way to learn something is to teach it. Right. Yeah. So to your other question, I don't know from this is just my opinion, my humble opinion. I think sometimes the field gets either so hyper-focused on business or so hyper-focused on the child and the humanistic approach that we're still learning how to run a business while making sure it remains a human service. That's kind of what I see sometimes. And I struggle with that myself. It's not that I ever don't want my kids to be first or that's what it's about, but there's times I get hyper focused on the business and then I get really stressed out because I'm like, oh, this isn't happening. And then I have to, take a step back and regroup and remember what is our common goal. And our common goal is our why. Just like April, you and I have talked about this, what is your why? And your why is the kids and your team. And when you bring it back around to that and go, okay, I understand that this is a human service first. The money has to follow because we can't keep the lights on. We can't pay our staff. We can't take care of our staff. But to understand that the business isn't a dirty word either. Money's not a dirty word. It's the intent behind it. And how do you marry the two? How do you as a business owner feel like you're not being a greedy business owner when you have to run a business? But you also want to keep that human service, that humanistic approach, that compassionate humanistic approach for your team, for your clients, for the families that you serve. That's a dichotomy, right? That you're trying to figure out all the time. I don't know how that is with other companies. Some people have a very good grasp on certain things and some people struggle, but I feel like marrying those two thoughts and understanding that there's a way to make them meet that's going to be helpful for everybody, including yourself, and being okay with that.
Yeah, you have a really good pulse on that. That is definitely a struggle in many business owners, journeys for sure.
Yeah. I had a mental health counselor that I worked with early on in my career. And I remember that being kind of a conversation. And at one point, as we're having a conversation about the child, and I think we were talking about cancellations or something, and it was like, oh, so it's about money. And she was so amazing and quick to being able to say, like, just like what you said, Jen, like, well, no, I mean, at the core, we're here for your child, but we do need, it is a business, and we do have to make sure, right, that the employee that's working with your child also has to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have to pay rent, and they have, and so no, I mean, but like you said, it has somewhat turned into a little bit of a dirty word, right? And so marrying the two, that's really a good point.
Absolutely. Well, before we end today, do either one of you have anything that you were hoping to share and talk about today that we didn't get to? Or I don't like saying any last words because that sounds too much, but
I'm just super excited that we're doing it. I think I had seen a couple things on Facebook where people had said, like, hey, we're struggling, and would you be willing to do a support group? I just think it's something that's needed, and I'm super excited that we're starting it. And I hope that we can, get the word out and it takes off, rather quickly, because I think it is so needed.
Yeah, I agree. I like the back to basics, because it's kind of like you get so far into this journey that you do forget about your basics, and those are always good refreshers. And I think it's going to be, not just for Mallory and all the three of us, I think it's going to be a reminder of where you've come from and how you can keep helping, and just like I said earlier, I just feel like it's very much our responsibility as people who care about what we do to bring in that next generation of professionals. So maybe they can help trailblaze and make this industry continue to improve where we need to help it move forward. Because if you're in it for the right reasons, you're in it for the kids, you're in it for change. And I'm just looking forward to meeting new business owners and older business owners, and every business owner in between, who's been here longer than us, or who's I just feel like just like a parenting, every level of where you're at brings something to the table, and it's something to be valued and to not downplay. You may have only started your company 3 months ago, but hey, listen, we know what the next 5 years are going to look like. So lean on us. We're here. We're going to be here as a community to help, so I think that's important. I would have loved that 10 years ago. I don't know about anybody else.
Wouldn't that have been amazing? No.
Yeah. Talk about feeling like you're on an island.
I know.
Yeah.
I say that all the time about a lot of things we do here at ABA Business Leaders. I'm like, oh, God, I wish we had had that. All right, guys, we're here at the end. if you are interested and would like to show up to this group, there will be a link here below. I think there'll be one flashing across here, or a QR code or something here. But then also we'll have it in the show notes as well, of how you can sign up to get started. We are going to be holding, like I said, the monthly support group. This podcast is airing on January 15th. So if you're listening to this on January 15th, look at you. You're like on the ball. We are going to start this group next week, which is January 21st. So the way this is going to work is we are going to hold the live, there again, not recorded, no cost to attend, support group on the 3rd, right, ladies? The 3rd Wednesday of every month. So that falls next week. January 21st is our first one. And we're going to do it at 12 Eastern. Okay. So 12 Eastern. And then what is that central, Jen?
11 a.m.
And then Mallory.
10 Mountain.
10 Mountain.
And 9 Pacific.
And 9 Pacific.
Standard.
So,
yeah.
Yep. So we will try our best to also post all of the different time zones because it gets confusing. And so that's kind of also why we chose this 12 Eastern time, is just because looking at all the different time zones, to confuse the matters more, I'm in Atlantic, right? So we've got like 5 hours of time spread across, but, so that's where we'll meet. So January 21st, 12 Eastern, look in the show notes or on the screen here if you're watching on YouTube for the link of how to sign up for that. And then we also have a little bonus with this. Stephen has started a Slack community for this particular support group needs. And so we really hope that not only showing up for each other just once a month, but being able to connect with each other through Slack. If you're not familiar with Slack, it's really just a place where we can like communicate, right? In real time. So if you're having a particularly hard day and you just need someone to chat with, as this group builds, as we grow, as more people join, then there'll be even more opportunity for us to support each other, daily, really, as we can. So look forward to seeing you all, here, on January 21st. The 3 of us will be here, and it's really just going to be a place for casual conversation. You know, if you want to keep your camera off and you just want to hang out and listen, great. If you have a very particular situation that you want to bring up to each other, great. If we just want to chit chat and get to know, oh, where are you? What state are you in? You know, how many years have you been in business kind of thing? That's great too. You know, maybe going along, we might have some days that if we have a request for a specific topic to like discuss a specific topic, we can, but then that's where Slack can be, helpful as well. So that the support group time can really just be that space for when we're here in real life supporting each other. So, all right. On that note, my challenge to you today will not be to invite a business owner for a cup of coffee, but how about picking somebody out there? It could be your friend who's a business owner. It could be your friend who works in a company who has a good relationship with their business owner. Like, share the link for this support group and invite someone along to join this space. And that's how you can reach out and collaborate and connect with fellow business owners today. So Jennifer and Mallory, I just thank you both so very much. I just love spending time with you, and I love that you guys were like, yes, a second. I mean, there was no explanation of my whole plan here. It was, yes, how can we help? And I absolutely love that. And I thank you both for that. So, all right. Well, on that note, we will see you next time.